Here we go now, baby. Right back into the action for another day of the week. Welcome to the Monday edition of Before You Bet. Aaron live right here in the Covers YouTube and X channels. If you're on YouTube right now, smash that like and that subscribe button right down there. A lot of great content here on the Covers YouTube channel. A lot of great content to come here as well. We have these NFL divisional round playoff games. We've got a big UFC event this weekend. We've got the college football national championship game. We're going to have a lot of coverage for that, so make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Makes our content much easier to find. Okay, great big show planned for you guys today. A bit of a traditional Monday show. We're going to be doing our winners and losers out of the weekend, and we have what will be the final Monday night NFL football game of the season here. Looks to be a competitive matchup taking place down in Arizona now all of a sudden. Tough break for the Rams in that one. Okay, so we're going to be covering that one. Then in the second half of the show, we will be covering the National Basketball Association. Small board tonight, but a decent-looking board with a couple of good-looking betting opportunities. If you guys want to participate in the show, very easy to do so. Hit up that live chat on YouTube. Who are you taking to cover the spread in the game tonight? What's your best bet, your favorite prop, total? Who's winning the coin toss? I'm taking heads, baby. Sully says the Vikings are winning. Don't have any recency bias is what I think he means. I tend to agree with that. A lot of people are going too crazy about one game. And Hawkinson for 50+, that is a very popular bet. I'm ready to win like a big dog. Says RN. Okay, let's go. Biggest loser, Jordan Love. Yeah, that was rough. Okay, let's get into that segment of the show with our man, the guy with the sexiest smile and all of sports betting. Jingles. So 2 and 3 for me at a Friday show. Not good. Could have been worse. So I guess how'd your betting go wild card weekend here, buddy?
3 and 2 on the show. Personal card, much worse. Was very happy to see a 3 and 2 card released here on the Friday show. But in terms of what my bank account did, what my accounts did, it wasn't great. When you have a lot of money on Olamide Zacchaeus to do something, and he didn't, when Demi Brown steals all the yards, and it was a tough way to cap the Sunday.
Yeah, I think in one sense we were all losers after watching 4 of the games. More on that here in a little bit. Okay, let's get into our biggest winners and biggest losers of the weekend. A lot of these very obvious with only 5 games being played on Saturday and Sunday. But let's start positive with our biggest winners of the week. My biggest winner of the week, it's going to be the Houston Texans defense. So their defense is the star of that team, not CJ Stroud. And this is a team who really needed someone or one of their big units to step up here. They did kind of limp into the playoffs. As a result of that, they were a home underdog, but the defense was absolutely fantastic. 4 turnovers, a pick 6. They only allowed the Chargers to get into the red zone 1 time. And, of course, they held them to a field goal on that one. They allowed just 50 rushing yards, just 6 points allowed through 50 minutes in that game. So shout out to the coaching staff and the defense for really stepping up there. And CJ Stroud made a couple big plays too. We got to give him a little bit of credit. My second biggest winner of the week, Derrick Henry. This is why you add Derrick Henry to your team. Take a little pressure off Lamar Jackson. He took a lot of pressure off of him. 186 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Why wait to the fourth quarter to put away a team when you can put them away in the second quarter? The Ravens up 21-0 on halftime, a bit of a toothless comeback attempt by the Steelers. And the running back position has been undervalued for years now. You know, we often see somebody drafts a running back early. People make fun of them. This is what an elite running back can do for your team. Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. My third biggest winner of the week, this guy's been in this section a lot this season. Jaden Daniels. Usually when a rookie quarterback goes on the road for his first playoff game, it tends to be a death sentence, but Daniels appears to be immune to any sort of pressure like that. Continues to rise to the occasion. 268 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Big plays on 4th down where the Commanders went 3 for 5. A lot of urgency out of the Commanders, unlike a couple of dinky teams who we'll discuss in our loser section. An honorable mention. This team was in the biggest loser section last week. The New England Patriots. They get the biggest fish in the sea. Mike Vrabel, bring him in as their head coach. I think he's a really good coach. I think he is undoubtedly a top 10 coach in the NFL. I think he got a lot out of a little as head coach of the Tennessee Titans. I know shitty division still, Ryan Tannehill. They had one decent playoff run. They went into New England. Tom Brady's final game as a Patriot was a loss in the playoffs on their home field to Ryan Tannehill and the Tennessee Titans. Pretty good spot that they're in, the Patriots. They appear to be set at the quarterback position. Now with the number 4 pick in the draft, they're either going to be able to get the best wide receiver, the best offensive lineman, or the best defensive player in the draft. So things looking pretty good here for the New England Patriots. Jingles, who are your biggest winners of the weekend?
Biggest winner, Washington on 4th down. I was unfamiliar with Dan Quinn's 4th down game, right? We talk about Dan Campbell's 4th down game. This is the number 1 offense on 4th down, 2.2 expected points added on top of the play. But where we look at Detroit on that, Detroit sits 5th in the league. Denver actually 2nd. So we're headed for maybe the most aggressive 4th down game in the history of football next week, but I love it. 3 for 5. And Jaden Daniels on 3rd and 4th down, 2 touchdowns, 9 for 15 passing, 108 yards on those 2 final downs. Absolutely broke the backs of the Bucs, who couldn't get off the field. And that was the name of the game all weekend, was time of possession. Absolutely dominated by winning teams. Baltimore run game, number 2. You touched on it, but the O-line is 1,600 pounds. They have a 380-pound guard, and you have a 300-pound fullback. That's 2,000 pounds of blocking material in front of maybe the angriest runner in Derrick Henry. It's going to be ugly, I think, if they just lean on that run and Buffalo can't do anything. So absolutely dominating on the ground. 15 straight run plays. They had a 13-play drive, all run plays. They didn't have to do anything. And finally, anyone who hit a first TD this weekend, insane numbers. The Covers YouTube account, the Covers X account tweeted it out. Denver's Troy Franklin, he was 42-1. Philly's Johan Dotson was 50-1. And finally, Demi Brown in the late game, 25-1. If you had any of those pieces, you're either A, very lucky, or you knew something somebody else did, because those are very uncommon first touchdown scores.
Adam Schefter just tweeted out, Mike McCarthy not expected to return to the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, what are you doing? It's been over a week now since your regular season ended. All these good candidates are being interviewed. And now you're, like I said to the guys, the Cowboys got to piss or get off the pot. Are you going to bring him back or not? An absolute joke. The Dallas Cowboys. Handle your business, Cowboys. So, yeah, what I like about the Commanders winning that game against the Bucs, I kind of like both teams. Both teams are kind of fun. But it sets up a fun matchup in Detroit against the Lions, something kind of new. We just saw the Vikings Lions 2 weeks ago, or a week ago. We've seen the Rams Lions plenty of times already, so I like how it does set up that matchup in
55
Detroit.
Points. Have you have any lean on that 55 point? Because that's we saw a lot of under football on the weekend.
Yeah, that's tough. I would lean over, but then again, I leaned over when it was 56 between the Lions and the Vikings, and how did that work out, right? Okay, so those are the biggest winners. A lot of candidates here for biggest losers, including us, not just me and Jingles, and you guys watching. Well, more on that here momentarily. But undoubtedly for me, I think the biggest loser of the weekend, it's got to be Justin Herbert. I think this guy had everybody fooled, myself included. So 2 years ago, they go down to Jacksonville. They get up 27-0 in the wild card round. And they end up blowing that lead. People forget about that. And Justin Herbert got a complete and total pass for that. The entirety of the blame went on Brandon Staley, even though the quarterback is the leader of the team when they're on the field. But he's going to get no passes absolutely for what happened Saturday in Houston. 4 interceptions thrown. So I know all of those weren't his fault. Absolutely. I think 1 or 2 of them were tipped, but he did throw a really bad pick 6. He also completed 43.8% of his passes. And go look at Justin Herbert's game logs from this year. Like, I was fooled. I had Herbert as the 5th best quarterback in the NFL going into this game. I'm going to have to bump him down, maybe bump Jaden Daniels up to that number 5 spot behind Joe Burrow. But look at his game logs from the regular season. A lot of his better games came against shit-ass teams, the Raiders, the Patriots. not so good against the Kansas City Chiefs of the world. And that game against the Ravens wasn't good. And I know people kind of making the receivers and dropping balls, but they pay the guy the big money, 5th year in the league. We talk about the arm talent, blah, 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 blah. And Dolphins fans have a tricky relationship with Justin Herbert because we get made fun of. We get it rubbed in our face that the Dolphins picked Tua above Herbert and how much better Herbert is than Tua. I don't know about that. Justin Herbert is a lot closer to the Tuas and Trevor Lawrences of the world than he is to the Josh Allens and Lamar Jackson. So a long off season coming for him. Probably get him a big weapon or two, but a lot of question marks in big games. He's been awful in the 2 playoff games that he's been in. Second biggest losers, some head coaching here. Maybe you could throw Matt LaFleur in here as well, but Mike Tomlin, Sean Payton. Where's the urgency, guys? Big underdogs on the road in the playoffs, and you're treating this like a week 4 game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. 2 former Super Bowl winners. They shoved this down our throat. You can only dine out on this for so long. It's been over a decade since either of these guys have done anything significant in the playoffs. Everyone wants Mike Tomlin out of town for being the middest head coach in professional sports. Probably, they'll finish a game or 2 above 500, then get their ass kicked in the wild card round. Sean Payton, yeah, they did that fake punt. Aside from that, though, it was pretty cowardly play calling by him. I know you're going to touch about this a lot, but let your quarterback play. Stop trying to protect your quarterback. He got you here. He made some big plays. He made a big throw on their first possession of the game. And then they didn't score another goddamn point the rest of the game. So, yeah, bad look for them. Matt LaFleur, I will give the Packers a little bit of a break here. Everything that could have possibly went wrong for them did, from the opening kickoff, fumbling that ball, a lot of injuries, but still a lot of penalties, some shitty play calling from them. Jordan Love wasn't great yesterday either. But my third biggest loser of the week is us, the consumers of the NFL product. So it was funny. A lot of people who were like, college football is better than the NFL. Those guys were having a nice victory lap yesterday, weren't they? Because everyone was making fun of the first round of the college football playoff based on how bad the games were. Well, the NFL games over this weekend, aside from the game last night between the Commanders and the Bucs, they were equally bad to what we saw in the first round of the college football playoff. 4 of the games decided by 20, 14, 24, and 12 points, ugly turnovers, lots of penalties. I couldn't wait for 4 of the 5 games to get done and over with. It was like, all right, let's finish up with this game. And you get excited for these games, and you're going to watch them every single time. But when you look back in hindsight, the first 4 games of the playoffs here were an absolute waste of everybody's time. So we are losers. Hopefully we'll be winners with the game tonight and the rest of the playoffs. Jingles, who are your biggest losers out of the weekend?
It was such a big tease with how it started off, right? The Troy Franklin touchdown, like Denver's like going into Orchard Park and just silences the crowd with that big play. And you're like, oh, we got something cooking up. And then we didn't. And then we didn't. I didn't know who not to put in here because they all kind of, as you touched on, Joe, this was all ugly. Pittsburgh, just talk about personnel. You got Tomlin, you got Smith, obviously. There's issues with there, but like Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, and Mike Williams as your complementary offensive players, you're not going to do much. And you showed it. And it was a team that, like, you really nailed it. It's just complacent. Week 4 versus the Jaguars. It didn't look like until somewhere late in that third quarter where Russell Wilson was like, okay, now I got to start throwing the ball downfield. And the same thing for Denver. If Sean Payton decides to bring another back in to this backfield and muddy it for like the umpteenth consecutive week, he's tweeting out that Tyler Bidet, who hasn't played like since week 4, is going to have a big role in this offense. Like, go to hell with what you do with that. It's so confusing. And I'm not just saying from a betting perspective. It's just there's no consistency within that offense. You're finally going to run Javonte Williams. He hasn't been the first down back in like 4 weeks since McLaughlin came back. So there's just so much inconsistency. And then you see what he did coming out of that second half. Go run, pass, run, pass. They completed 0 passes in that third quarter. And you saw him in between takes there, in between the half, saying we need to work on time of possession. Well, you're losing the game, John. this doesn't count. James Cook is absolutely running down your throat. It was embarrassing for Denver, who didn't let Bo Nix really do anything. And then Green Bay, it's really tough to crap on them. But like right from the gate, it just looked like a team that was out of sorts. They lost both their receivers. They're throwing to Bo Melton and Malik Heath down the stretch because of the Dobbs and Reed injury. And their offensive line negated over 50 yards in a 43-yard play down the stretch there. So it was big teams, won big, and losing teams look absolutely brutal. And that's why we're seeing the Brad Powers tweet saying, oh, maybe we should do something like the college football. And it was in parody, but we were so close to that a lot of people took it for that it was a true tweet.
Indeed. So, yeah, the game last night, Tampa Bay, I was just kind of waiting on Tampa Bay to pull away, and it just never happened. They came out, they had that really nice drive where Mike Evans dominated Lattimore, and it just didn't happen. So we'll give the Commanders a lot of credit. Looking at the chat here, JPC4 says, assume Joe's number one winner would have been the Clocksuckers, because there was a whole lot of that going on, man. I felt that was a really bad beat, had the under in the Texans Chargers game, and I was about to tweet out, this game has been a perfect under game so far. Fourth down conversions unsuccessful, field goals, not touchdowns. And then we get a pick six. And then I think it was like an 80-yard touchdown pass that one to McConkey. And we know what happened there.
But the Will Disley one was like right in his hands. And he just literally gifted it to the defense, who took it down to the 10 as well. Like everything was going well. You had the turnover before the Justin Herbert across the body interception, which was the turning point in that game. And it could have just been the Chargers just leaning on the run. Gus Edwards didn't even look that bad.
We'll get some better football next weekend. Hopefully starting tonight, actually. Okay, let's get right into the action here, Jingles. 5 total picks. I have 3. You have 2. I'm going to get us started with a little bit of a weirdo one, but this has been a winning spot all season. I will be fading the Rams in the first quarter of this game. I will take the Vikings first quarter to be up by at least a point here, plus 124 odds on this one. So the Rams are an NFL worst, 4-13 against the spread in the first quarter. They average a pitiful 1.8 first quarter points per game. Minnesota is top 3 in both first quarter points for and allowed. For what it's worth, they led 14-17 at the end of the first quarter when these teams played in the regular season. And I do expect some immediate urgency. Teams that are well coached and that have talent tend to bounce back strongly after a bad performance. I think a lot of people, like a lot of the content I've seen around this game, not a whole lot of people high on the Vikings. This was a team, they go 14-3 during the regular season, with 2 of those losses to the team that's favored to win the Super Bowl. So, yeah, I do expect the Vikings to bounce back and come out right off the bat with some urgency and take advantage of the Rams, who traditionally start pretty slow here. So give me the Vikings first quarter spread. Rams team total. What are you thinking?
Thinking the under. I was expecting it to move a bit with the change of venue, but it moved 5 points. This was something that I got on early. And if I'm a Rams fan, as I put in there, I'm just really scared of what Matthew Stafford you're going to get here. His last passing touchdown, Joe, came on December 22nd versus the Jets in week 16. He has 1 passing TD over his last 3 starts. Jets, Arizona, and San Francisco. That's not a gauntlet of defenses. What this team has done recently is relied on that defense, because it's been incredible down the stretch in those 3 starts with Matthew Stafford. 1 touchdown allowed versus the Jets, and they didn't even get the extra point in that. So expect a lot of run. I don't like what this offense is doing, but I also like this under in terms of total play volume, because it's a run-first offense. Kyron Williams is going to get 25 to 30 carries in this game. He's rested, and this could be a slow game. And after what happened in Week 18, do you really think Kevin O'Connell is going to be like, all right, Sam Darnold, lead us to victory here? No, you could see Aaron Jones, who could be a factor, hopefully, in this game, running versus a very tough defense, though.
JPC4 said I had Jalen Warren over 20 receiving yards, and he was stuck on 19.5 for a quarter and a half. You might recall I gave that out on the show Friday. That one stung. A couple of bad.
Did he finish there? Did he not get anything in garbage time?
No. He was stuck on that number. It was a tough one to swallow. Okay, let's keep rolling here with the plays. Square play of the day, Puka Nacua over his receiving yard total of 89.5. He has been pretty big, pretty great in big games. Check this out this season. 162 against Buffalo, 117 versus Philly, 106 versus the Vikings. He had 129 in the division clinching game versus the Arizona Cardinals. Last season, in the wild card round, he had a career high 181 versus the Detroit Lions. He's had a couple good games versus the 49ers as well. So this is a guy who shows up for the big games. Great matchup for him. The Vikings allowed the second most yards to wide receivers in the NFL. And Matthew Stafford has been on his A game here in the playoffs as a member of the Rams. He threw for 367 in Detroit in a losing effort, of course, last season. During the Super Bowl run, he had a couple 300-plus yard games as well. So I like Nacua. To stuff the stat sheet, go over 89.5 receiving yards. Jingles, Aaron Jones, you like him to get into the end zone.
I just, it's a price thing always for touchdowns, but I mean, change venue helps. This is as short as even money places, but plus 125, I think you buy this to maybe plus 110. It's just a really good price for a 3-point favorite around there, neutral site. And like I said, Darnold's confidence is down. They could lean on this more. It's a tough matchup, but that's obviously priced in. But Minnesota's projected team total here is 24 points. And it's going to be the Aaron Jones show in terms of 85% running back opportunities. So getting a number one back here at that price is pretty solid. I also thought that same thing when I got J.K. Dobbins at a similar price. That didn't turn out. But I mean, you're seeing a different price in terms of these number one running backs in the playoffs a little bit, but the totals are similar. So I'm not really understanding where the price is moving that. We saw a lot of receiver stuff go on, but plus 125 is something there, but I think the buy is about plus 110.
Okay, last but not least, I like TJ Hawkinson to go over his longest reception, set at 17.5 yards. So the Rams are flat out bad against the tight end position. Bottom 4 in both yards and catches allowed to tight ends this season. They also allow a lot of big pass plays. They're tied for the 4th most pass plays of 20-plus yards allowed, and he is one of Darnold's favorite targets. He targeted him 8 times last week, only 2 catches. But still, 5-plus targets in 7 straight games. He's had a reception over 17.5 yards in 6 of the 10 games that he has played in this season. So Hawkinson, longest reception over 17.5. And Jingles, that does it for the NFL segment of the show. A lot of work to do this week, though, because we have a big show coming up on Friday where we will give out, hopefully, a bunch of winners for the divisional round. What else do you have going on this week that the viewers can check out?
Hockey show, puck props coming down the line. Wednesday live, 10 o'clock. Thursday, same time. Friday there too. The Blitz will be doing its releases, I would assume, as soon as the market's open. So maybe the same as we did this week. Maybe a Thursday show where we can get all the games in one spot as soon as the markets and get the best price there. But that's all it is. And then it's going to be a lot of, we're hitting that stage, Joe. We're in our jobs. We'll be talking about the same teams, the same games, an awful lot over the course of a week. And just think that Super Bowl double week, there's a lot of talking about 104 players.
Yeah, and soon after that, start preparing for baseball season.
Let's go.
Can't wait for that. That is a cycle that we live in. It's a great cycle to work in. Okay, Jingles, we'll leave it at that. Thanks for joining. Best of luck with the picks. Catch you on Friday.
Appreciate it. Take care. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Okay. Closing in on 2,000 live viewers, the majority of those watching on X, a good chunk there on YouTube as well. Guys, if you like the show, it's very easy to let us know that you like the show. Just hit the like button right down there. Hit that subscribe button as well. A lot of great content coming up this week. It is a gigantic week coming up in the world of sports betting, of course, with the NFL playoffs, the NBA and NHL in full swing, the College Football National Championship game, and a big-time UFC pay-per-view going down this Saturday. We're going to be all over it. I'm interviewing George St. Pierre tomorrow to get his takes on the event, and we'll be up on our YouTube channel here. Okay, let's talk a little NBA. If we're talking NBA, we're doing it with the Magic Ass Man, Jon Metler. Jon, how was your weekend?
Oh, it was good. Yeah. Actually, I was just scrambling here a little bit behind the scenes because the injury report for the NBA just changed quite a bit on us for the picks we're about to give out. So I was looking at some new numbers and stuff, but I'll get into that when we get into the picks.
Anything affecting the Pistons next game or Heat
No.
Clippers? Nothing.
No, not
So
those two. You're
so I
clear.
am safe.
It's my picks that are. I think one of the bullet points I put was clean injury report, and then they just dropped a bunch of news on us. So I was trying to run the numbers again.
Okay, so you wanted to discuss the Minnesota Timberwolves here off the top of the show. A bit of a sluggish start to the season for them. I think we expected them maybe to come out of the gates flying, considering how things finished last season. But you think they're turning a little bit of a corner here?
Yeah, they put Dante DiVincenzo into the starting lineup, and I love it. I watched their game against the Memphis Grizzlies on Saturday, and it was John Moran against Anthony Edwards. Fantastic game, 2-point game. And DiVincenzo, I think he had 27 points that game. He had a big game. I think he's the piece that they needed beside Anthony Edwards. First of all, DiVincenzo just brings an edge in general. So you love that. But like that shooting piece beside Anthony Edwards, I love that. I think they got too deep into like we're a really good defensive team. Like just having Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert as really good defenders. Not everyone needs to be an elite defender. And I mean, Anthony Edwards can guard and stuff. So DiVincenzo beside Anthony Edwards, I love that. I think the big question mark, which was when I was watching them, is still Julius Randle. And are they going to keep him? Are they not going to keep him? And I was thinking about when I was watching it, I was like, I think a great trade would be Julius Randle. You send him back to Brooklyn, and then for Cam Johnson, because Cam Johnson's on the block. And then you add a second shooting piece beside Anthony Edwards. Now you have Anthony Edwards, DiVincenzo, and Cam Johnson, who can both shoot lights out. Cam Johnson can defend. And I think you move Jaden McDaniels down to the 4. And like, if you do get into matchups where you need more size, you have Naz Reid off the bench. I was just like playing through my head. I'm like, I think this is a great trade. And I feel like Julius Randle would probably go back to Brooklyn. And Brooklyn took D'Angelo Russell. So I think they're open to taking kind of players people don't want. And it feels like those two feel like very similar players. So I like what the Wolves, just keep an eye on the Wolves.
Okay. 15-1 to win the Western Conference. Kind of interesting. Yeah, if they get a couple of breaks along the way, we could see them right back having a deep playoff run this year. I would not be surprised by that. Okay, let's get into our picks here. 5 total. You have 2. You have 3. I have 2. Get us started with Warriors Raptors in Toronto.
Yeah, this is so Warriors Raptors. I put over 228, and I said both teams are healthy, and you haven't seen that Raptors healthy all year. You got quickly back all these guys. Well, they just added quickly to the injury report, and they tagged him as questionable. So this total has moved up to. I'm going to talk more about the numbers here than the basketball because I think it's more important based off what I'm seeing. So this did open at like 225.5. It's moved up to 228. I thought you still had a good edge even at 228, but now with Quickly out, not Quickly, he's not out, but he's questionable. So if Quickly is out, this 228 is probably about a fair number. That's about what the total should be. If Quickly's in, you still have a good edge on this number. So that's something you need to kind of pay attention to. And then they dropped the second one. It was Draymond Green is questionable now with an illness. And that kind of flips it the other way because Draymond Green's a really good defender. So if Draymond Green is out, then it kind of pushes this more towards the over as well. So there's a couple things in play here. I think if you grab 228, the worst case scenario, you're going to end up fine. It's just a number that probably should be 228. If Quickly's in and Green's out, you're still looking really good. Or if so that's just kind of the injury report's kind of messing it up in terms of like the basketball side of things. The Raptors just don't play defense. And there's a lot of other like side angles here too. Like Curry was from Toronto. Wiggins is from Vaughan. Dennis Schroeder was basically kicked to the curb by the Raptors. So there's a lot of motivation too from the Warriors side. And I don't think they have the defenders to guard them. So just pay attention to the injury report. Worst case scenario, I think over 228, you're okay, but there's a chance you got a good edge on it.
Golden State off the loss as well, so a little bit of motivation perhaps. The Detroit Pistons are being disrespected tonight. 8-point underdog against the Knicks. Give me a break. Give me the Pistons +8. And this one, so dig into the numbers here. Last 10 games, not a whole lot separating these teams statistically. 6th versus 8th in net rating in that 10-game sample size. Pistons shooting it a little bit better. They beat the Knicks by 9 points back on December 7th, by the way. That's worth mentioning. And the Pistons, pretty good bet as an underdog here, especially as an underdog of more than a few points, or on an 8-2 against the spread run as an underdog of 4 or more points. And not an ideal game situation here for the Knicks either. So they played yesterday. Great win for them. 140-106 against the Milwaukee Bucks. So the urgency might not quite be there. They've been really bad in the second game of back-to-backs as well this season. 1-3 ATS, 2 losses to the Bulls. They went to overtime with the Wizards in the spot as well. So, yeah, the Knicks very well might win, but this is too many points here. So give me the Pistons +8. Jon Morant back on the court here for the Grizzlies. What do you like for him?
Yeah, my next guy, he was just tagged as questionable with an illness. That's why I was also looking at this one. So all my bets are kind of swinging a certain way here. So when I was looking at this morning, the thought was the Grizzlies are very much like the Cavs. They don't push minutes for their starters. They haven't all year. But this is a matchup against the Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets, they're almost, I think they're half game behind in the Southwest Division. So this is like a very meaningful game for them. And you look at the Rockets and you're like, okay, really good defense. He's going to have to go against Amen Thompson, which isn't great. But in the same breath, it's like he's dishing his potential assists to his bigs like Brandon Clark, Zach Edey on the inside, and they're going against Şengün. So in terms of like converting the potential assists, it's just like a weird matchup. And then you're showing like a slight edge with Morant playing 30 minutes, but that just feels low considering they're playing the Rockets and like how meaningful the game is. So it was kind of a really weird prop to look at because you're like, you think Rockets defense, but at the same time, it's like, I'm pretty sure Morant can create against anyone. And even if it is Amen Thompson, I just felt like his potential assists could convert to his bigs. And that's where his assists really start to pile up. Now he was just tagged questionable with an illness. And I assume that just means he's either going to play or not. So if he's good to go, I feel like this is all still in play. If he's not, it doesn't really affect the player prop just because it'll be void. But again, that's just another thing to keep an eye on.
I like another underdog. For this one, we're going out to Los Angeles and taking the Miami Heat +6 at the Clippers. +6.5, excuse me. So the Heat, they've turned a serious corner last few games, maybe putting the Jimmy Butler nonsense behind them here. 3 straight wins, some big ones in Portland, Utah, and Golden State. Not the best competition, but still they're doing what they're supposed to be doing in those games, 3rd in net rating over that 3-game sample size. Meanwhile, the Clippers are going in the opposite direction. This has been one of the worst offenses in the NBA over the past couple of weeks. 27th in offensive rating over the last 10 games, shooting it very poorly and committing a lot of turnovers. And a big edge on the defensive end here for the Heat as well. Last 5 games, 3rd versus 20th in defensive rating. So give me the Heat to, at the very least, keep things close versus the Clippers. And John, you've been the king of the SGP here in 2025 so far. You got one for tonight. What do you have cooked up?
Yeah, I went back to the Grizzlies Rockets. Again, I was going Jon Morant. I was going to put this on his assists because I do think there's a path to like a good alt for him. But like I just said, he was just tagged with an illness, so we'll have to wait to see if he is playing. But I think it's to his bigs on the interior. That's why I put Zach Edey 5+ points. I thought about making this like a really big plus price and going Zach Edey 10+ points. I just feel like that might be a little too far. So it was like 6.5. I feel like if you could find like 8+ points, some books do offer that. I feel like you could go that route. And I did Desmond Bane 15+ points as well, because if Morant's getting assists, he's got to go to his bigs inside, and Bane's got to knock down threes. You could also look at Jalen Wells. I think there's a couple different players you could look at here. I guess if this, I already placed this, so like if he goes void, it's just going to be those 2 legs, and you're going to end up with actually not like a great plus price because that his leg is the most important one of like juicing that up. But Bane 15+ points will not be, it'll be a much different price because Morant's usage gets pulled out. So it's again, player props are very different than like totals. So I think the totals fall in like 2 points here since they announced Morant new. So he is in question.
Mike McCarthy officially out as head coach, not fired, but they are parting ways. His contract just came to an end. So I think that's an interesting opening all of a sudden in the NFL. You got to wonder, maybe the Cowboys were being a little sneaky behind the scenes, talking to some people, seeing who might be interested before they decide what to do with McCarthy. I think that might be an attractive job to someone like Ben Johnson. You have people make fun of Dak Prescott, but still in the regular season, he's been a really good quarterback, one of the best wide receivers in the league, CeeDee Lamb. Decent positioning in the draft, I suppose. So, yeah, I think that could be a decent you got to deal with Jerry Jones and stuff, though, right? So, I don't know.
Couldn't that potentially be a Deion Sanders landing spot?
Well, the thought was they would try to align Deion and his son somewhere, right? So
people could still do that, technically.
I mean, yeah, they still could. Maybe maybe they were doing some bullshit behind the scenes about trading up in the draft and Dak Prescott going somewheres, and maybe that's too deep, but yeah, things are always interesting in Dallas. Jerry Jones likes to hire these guys that he can control, though, these little whipping boys, though. So they'll probably just hire some bum. Kellen Moore or something will come over and just be controlled by Jerry, his little puppet. So we shall see. Maybe he'll make the right move. Okay, recapping the NFL bets. If you missed the top of the show here, Vikings first quarter, plus 124 to be up by at least a point. Puka and Nakua over should be 89.5 yards, actually. TJ Hawkinson, longest reception, over 17.5. We have a same game parlay there for, what did Jingles give out here? Just 1 second. He gave out the Rams team total under 223.5 and Aaron Jones anytime touchdown plus 125. We asked you guys in the poll, 57% of the people like the Vikings to win tonight. I think I do too. Hopefully we get a competitive game, though. Get some points up, both sides, maybe a game within one score in the fourth quarter. That would be nice to see after the junk we saw throughout the weekend. Okay, that does it for today, John. You'll be right back with us tomorrow, of course, so to get into the NBA. Professional sports bettor Hitman will be with Professional sports bettor Hitman will be with us as well. Worst recap screen ever.
Can I hit
Nick's
you with
highlighting it? So go ahead, John.
Can I hit you with the first touchdown I placed just for fun? I don't have an analysis.
Oh yeah, what do you got?
I'm a Vikings fan. You can see the helmet behind me. I went Jalen Naylor plus 2,500 first touchdown. In terms of analysis, I don't have one for you, but I did place it at BetMGM, and they have a promo for tonight that if you score the first touchdown, you get the normal odds. If he scores the second touchdown, you get your money back. So you can take advantage of that promo. I went with Jalen Naylor. I'm going with a theme that just random guys are going to score every single first touchdown. He's more in play for their offense than you think it would be. So
yeah,
Naylor plus 2,500.
Yes, sir. Okay. So big show coming up tomorrow. Big shows the rest of the week. A lot of great content here. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Thank you to both of my guests for joining. Thank you to producer Mick for putting the show together today. Thank you to BetMGM for sponsoring. Make sure you check them out for all your sports betting needs. And thank you to all the great viewers for tuning in, especially those of you in the live chat. Best of luck with your bets tonight. We will catch you guys again tomorrow. Let's go Pistons. Woo!